Good evening. This is Spare on Target, a program that is presented every other Wednesday night from 8 to 9 p.m. on Radio Belize, countrywide, which is sponsored by the Society for the Promotion of Education and Research. Tonight, I believe we're making a kind of a media history in that for the first time, this program, and I think any call-in program, is being simultaneously aired on radio as well as on television in Belize City. That is, I understand that Channel 11 in Belize City is geared to receive this program live tonight so that our viewers, I would say, in Belize City should be able to watch this program live and then call in their comments or their questions based on what they see on the television or hear on the radio. I think I should also mention that there might be problems with the audio part of the television, and if so, well, then just tune into your radio and you can watch the television at the same time. So I hope that this experiment proves fruitful, and for this sort of historic first time, we have as our guests, and we're very happy to have with us, on my right, the Honorable Henry Young, who is a representative, a member of the House of Representatives, and also significantly, for the purposes of this program, is a former chairperson of the National September Celebrations Committee, I believe from 1985 to 1988. Henry, welcome on the program.
Thank you.
And on my left, I have Dylan Vernon, who is the head of the research division of SPARE, the Society for the Promotion of Education and Research, and I believe no stranger to this program. So welcome to you all, and the subject for tonight is why do we celebrate the 10th of September? Or even why should we celebrate the 10th of September? And this little box here is the instrument that receives the calls when I'm told by one of the persons here in the studio that there is a call on the air, and the number to call is 75623. I press this little button here, and the caller comes on, and then you're live on the air. And you're invited to call in with your questions or your comments at 75623. And this here is something I use when I want to look distinguished, and also when I want to be able to read the small writing. So that's the subject here now. 10th of September, why should we celebrate it? You want to kick off on that, Henry? Why do you think that we chose, of all the possible dates in our history, the 10th of September of 1798, to celebrate in such a major way every year? Why?
Well, I think if we look at the history of the development of Belize, we will find that there has been, on several occasions during the formation of the country, there has been encroachment by the Spanish Empire on the settlement of Belize, or at that time, British Honduras. And the final encroachment took place on the 10th of September in 1798. And there's evidence to prove that. There are newspaper clippings, which I think has been circulated last year and the year before, of reports on this battle that took place, which in a sense was not a major battle, but I mean, neither was the battle between David and Goliath. But I think the significance of it is that it was the final encroachment by the hierarchy from Spain on dislodging the logwood cutters.
It doesn't have to happen. You don't have to have all that physical stuff going on that makes you crazy. It's a chance to get better. It's your body saying to you,
empires or not? Was it the British Empire and the Spanish Empire?
In an indirect way, it was. Because at that time, they were all vying for possession of large tracts of land from south of the United States of America all the way down to the tip in Argentina.
The whole of the Caribbean
and Central and South America.
And the outcome was favorable to the British Empire?
Yes, it was.
Okay, now, we as Belizeans, I mean, why celebrate something, a victory for a British Empire, which in fact was our colonizer?
Because at that time, that was the nature of things. That was
At that time?
Yes, I mean, there was slavery, which was unfortunately accepted by a lot of our ancestors. And I think if we...
Accepted? You mean...
slavery was accepted in the world at that time, as terrible as it was.
By the slaves? Really?
Yes. I mean, history shows you that. I mean, there is slavery today in a lot of countries. So...
But is it accepted by the people?
It's tolerated. It's tolerated.
And
it should not be.
By the slaves in Belize?
It was, and it should not have been.
You don't think that they tried to fight against it?
I'm not saying that they didn't try, but they tolerated it. Right? So we cannot analyze this thing from a point of view that at that time there was the master and slave situation, because that was the beginning. So we evolved as Belize, independent and free, and free thinking more and more as the days go by, right? And this is what's here now. So we cannot look at it from a point of view of saying, because I'm sure that in all of our family relationship, there are some uncles and aunts that we would not want to talk about, right? But does that stop them being our uncles and aunts, right? So in my opinion, let's talk about them, right? So that my children or my grandchildren, right, will not repeat what I consider to be a very tragic part of the world development and slavery, right?
You want to make any comment on that, Devin?
Yeah, well, the original question first, why celebrate the 10th? For me personally, is why did I celebrate the 10th? Because I participated in celebrations this year. I was part of the parade, and I participated in some of the other events, and I think that thousands of Belizeans did at the same time. I would want to say that I celebrated on the 10th and the 9th on the 8th, as opposed to celebrated the 10th of September. Because when I was parading down Freetown Road, enjoying myself with my friends, I had no image in my mind of the Spanish being repelled by beermen and slaves. I had no image in my mind of this Battle of St. George's Gate. That was not what I was celebrating, definitely. And for me, the reason that I do not want to celebrate this aspect of our history is because I believe that several things. The beermen are not the symbol, the historical symbol that I, as a Belizean today, want to celebrate. The beermen were pirates turned logwood cutters who settled in Belize because the Spanish never settled here. They were people who drove away the original inhabitants of this piece of land, now Belize, into other parts of Central America, and not only drove away, but massacred and raped and enslaved, or tried to enslave. Failing to enslave them, the beermen brought slavery to Belize, one of the worst atrocities of our history. They exploited our forests. Today we still are suffering the exploitation that went on of our forests. These are not the kind of people I want to celebrate as symbols of my history. I think that the fact that we do and have celebrated this day is an example of how Belizeans as a whole today do not, I believe, fully understand their history and the different aspects of their history that are important to them. I think if we look at the 10th of celebration, the 10th of September in 1798, and put it into the context of the time, it is not a day that we would choose from the other point of time in our history as something that we would like to celebrate. I think the fact that it was the last time, it is a fact that it was the last time the Spanish tried to dislodge the beermen from this part of the Belize, is not something that I find as a very relevant fact. Each island in the Caribbean can show a date in their history when there was a final battle between France or Spain or Britain or Spain, and we don't see them celebrating that. I think that the important thing for us to learn from this is that we need to, as a Belizean people, get our government, our media, our public awareness programs to develop a greater understanding of Belizean history. In fact, our history has hardly ever been written by Belizeans. It still needs to be written and reinterpreted. And I think when this is done, we are going to see more and more that this date in our history is not as significant as we think it is. I am not contending here that we abolish the 10th celebrations. I'm not doing that. I think that the 10th of September celebrations have developed a life of their own over the past century. I think it's an institution. I think that most Belizeans who have been celebrating it over the past few decades have not been celebrating it because of a battle that took place 192 years ago, but for the sake of celebration itself, which was, I think, the reason I celebrated. They were friends of mine visiting. It was a traditional time to celebrate. But in the back of my mind, I was not celebrating a battle between the Spanish and the English empires fighting for control of a piece of land. I was not celebrating that.
Okay, let me just say here, Henry, that a word to our viewers and listeners that you're invited to call in with your questions or comments at the telephone number 75623, and we'll be happy to take your call, your question, or your comment. Henry, one of the things that came up in Dylan's statement was this mention of the word baymen, right? And he was describing what, in his view, were the baymen, no? Which I think is historically accurate, more or less. I mean, were the baymen, what, the white slave masters in Belize?
And the free men. You will agree that they were free men at that time.
When you say free men, what do you mean?
Free college, as it is referred to.
They were called, yeah, free
Yes.
blacks on college, yeah.
The breakdown was like...
I'd like to pose...
They were not known as the baymen. I mean, the baymen were the white British settlers. No? But there's a call. Let's see what the caller has to say. Yes, caller, you're on the air.
Hello.
Yes, you're on the air.
To make a point, specifically to Mr. Young, no?
Mm-hmm.
To Mr. Henry Young.
Yes, please do.
You mentioned earlier that slavery was something that was accepted by the slaves in Belize.
That's right.
In my mind, this is a very gross insult to the descendants of those slaves living in Belize today. We know from the little history that has been put together in Belize, or on Belize, that there was a slave revolt in 1773 and another slave revolt in 1820. But we don't even know about this. Most Belizeans don't even know about this.
Do you think it's important for Belizeans to know about that?
Certainly.
As important as it is for them to know about the Battle of St. George's Cape?
Even more important
More so,
in my mind.
okay.
Even more important in my mind. I am not descended from any Bayman, any white Englishman. My forebears were black slaves. And I think I would want to celebrate something that they did rather than what some Englishmen did. And I think the point was made that whether these people were out there fighting for a piece of land, that had nothing to do with me. More people there were fighting for their freedom. And I think what is important to me as a black person is that I would want to know that I'm celebrating a battle each time my forefather was out there fighting for their freedom. And in all the other Caribbean islands where there was slavery, there are slave heroes who are national heroes in those countries, and there are days that everybody knows when certain revolts and other things took place. This battle at St. George's Cape thing was something started with the 10th of September celebration by the English for their good, and not for us. When are we going to start finding our own roots and identifying with our own selves and start to celebrate things that we did for ourselves instead of looking up to these white people who had not our interest at heart, but their own. So I think these are the things that we should look at.
Okay, thank you very much, caller, and I'll ask Mr. Young to respond to that. Thank you, thank you. Yes, Mr. What would be your reply to that?
I think the caller sort of took out of context my presentation, and he is envisioning Belize the way it is today and not the way it was.
Okay, but do you agree with him when he says that we should be more concerned about, for example, slave revolts, and to know about that aspect of our history and to celebrate those revolts?
Yes.
More so than celebrating a battle between two empires.
Yeah,
Do
but
you agree
before,
with that?
yeah, but before I answer that, I would like to ask him, whom would he blame for him not knowing about his history?
Well, he's not on the air anymore. But,
Yeah, all right,
okay.
but when we look at the advent of the movement for independence, the approach at that time was to suppress information. Would you agree with that? Information of all types.
I think it's been a
cultural.
general problem in the Belize period. And
Okay.
it still is. A certain amount
All
of
right.
suppression of
So that
information.
if the caller was more knowledgeable of how we arrived at where we are today, right?
Well, apparently he is.
No,
Certainly
but he would,
knowledgeable about,
yeah,
history.
he would understand that we're dealing with history, okay? And those things happened.
Okay, there's another caller. Let's see
Yes.
what the caller has to say. Yes, caller, you're on there.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yes, you're on the air. Let me hear you.
Thank you. Yes, my name is Cliff Robbins. I've only lived in Belize for about 17 years. I would like to know what the people on the program would propose about educating our people about 1798.
That's your question.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
So then,
It goes right back to what I'm
you
saying,
wanna
that there
wrap
was
that
the,
along with
yeah,
that?
there was the lack of the government since the independence movement started. They refused to give out information to the schools. I mean, they even, as a matter of fact, the present prime minister publicly stated that there was no battle. Am I right in saying that?
Henry,
So,
listen to what the man
yes,
said, right?
okay.
there was that
He
slave
was-
revolt in
yeah.
1773,
Yeah.
another one in 1820. Should we not be celebrating those dates as a major event in our history rather than a battle between
No,
the
in
Spanish and the
addition to, and I'd like to, you know what, it will help to cover this, the caller, because I think the caller should be dealt with, because, or he's saying that he had no, as far as he's concerned, in his
No white ancestry. Okay.
ancestors. But all right, can I pose the question to Dylan and look at Dylan and say, and ask him, all right, do you have any white ancestors? Looking at you from
I
your
am-
physical feature.
I am pretty sure I do, but if it was a Bayman, I would disown him now.
Yeah, all right, but nevertheless, you had him. So if
Yeah, I
there
do.
was no him, there would be no you.
Yeah,
Well,
but Henry,
that,
So-
that argument is prompt to saying if Columbus didn't come here, we wouldn't be here, or if the Battle of St. George's didn't happen, it wouldn't be here. I mean, that kind of argument, I think, is, we have to deal with the reality.
Yes,
We
all
are
right,
here.
suppose the Spaniards had won in 1798.
it'll be a different history.
We'll be a
All
different
right, so
history.
we'd be saying that we're denying that the Spaniards had some involvement in the beginning.
That wouldn't mean that
Belize.
you wouldn't be here, though.
It certainly
Maybe
would be,
No, maybe you'd be here, but you'd be talking Spanish.
because they would have
instead of
wiped out all the,
English. You'd be
would have
talking
wiped out,
Spanish instead of English. I mean, they're two European
and they
languages.
probably would have wiped out all
All
the black people,
Why?
right?
But
Black people, look,
the
there are
fact is-
millions of black people living
I don't
all
think-
over Latin America.
It is worth a while to think in that way. If that were to happen, then what would have happened now? The fact is we're here. We're a country that needs to examine more its history, become more aware of it, to rewrite our
Yeah.
history. Now, when we look back and we want to look at things that we want to celebrate, the Battle of St. George's Key is something that we have celebrated, I think, beyond its significance, far beyond its significance, in comparison to other things in our history.
Such as a slave revolt.
Such as a
There's
slave
a
revolt.
caller. Yes, caller, you're on the air.
I would like to know, when was this feast or celebration started to take place? Was it 100 years after the settlement of the English that began to take place?
That's right.
When did the celebration of the 10th of September begin in Belize? Is
Yes,
that the
that's
question?
what I want to know.
Okay, thank you. You know the answer to that? Henry?
I think, in essence, I do.
When?
It started after 1798.
How long after?
Maybe a year or two, and then it died out, it faded out, and then I think it was revived.
When?
I think somewhere around in the early 1940s.
No, I think it was before that. Do you know when?
It was 1898, 100 years afterwards, and it was basically the leaders at the time, the authorities, the British authorities, who said, yeah, we're going to begin celebrating this day. And it was sort of an empire kind of thing. An empire kind of thing.
I have another version too. I mean, many of these, all of these have been correct.
That's your version.
You know, a lot of our history is kind of murky. But I know one of the historians in Belize that has written a lot on Belize claims that the first big celebrations of this thing started in the 1850s, which was a time, of course, which coincided when a lot of the new immigrants were coming in from Yucatan, right? And when the British colonial authorities wanted to divide or to avoid any unity of the new immigrants along with, say, the Creoles. And so that the concept they tried to create was that of the Creoles being the descendants of those brave men who defeated the Spanish, and that these new immigrants, right, were the descendants of those Spanish, and therefore they should be enemies of one another. I mean, a typical, as they say, colonial policy of divide and conquer. So that the two major ethnic groups in Belize, right, for many years, starting in the 1850s, by this creation of this propaganda war, if you like. Because really, I mean, the Battle of St. George's Key is more significant in its propaganda aspect than, as you yourself said, as a battle, it wasn't a major battle. It lasted, what, 2.5 hours?
No, but I think you misinterpret. I'm not saying it's more significant. I'm saying it is significant not in its size, but it's significant in its outcome.
In the outcome.
Right.
The outcome was that Belize was confirmed, what, as
a British colony.
property.
Yeah. And I'd like
that
to
isn't
just...
true, you know. Even that isn't true. Because even in the 1820s, Henry, the British government officially still recognized Spain's sovereignty over Belize. You know that? Or you didn't know that?
Yes, no, I'm aware of where the people in the settlement at that time were trying to make recommendation to the British monarch.
The British government did not.
Yes, but that was a political. That was political. So you can't justify that.
I'm not justifying it. I'm just saying that as a matter of fact, the British government did not claim sovereignty over Belize, even in the 1820s.
Yeah, right.
Long after that.
Point taking. But then to get back to what our political leaders after independence were trying to instill in the people here, as a reason for saying that the Battle of St. George's Key was insignificant, in that they're saying that it created a division, in that it was trying to turn the Spaniards against the Creole. I think all three of us here are aware that there were very few Spaniards in Belize.
Of course, I mean, that word is misused and abused.
I think there were a few up in Corzal.
Totally misused and abused.
But the majority of the people there were mestizos.
Of course. Let's take this call. Yes, caller, you're on there.
Hello.
Yes, you're on there.
I'm calling, but you don't seem to be getting many calls, so I'm pushing in another one.
Let's hear you.
Mr. Young asked the question, who is to be blamed for this? And he seems intent on taking this thing to the Belize political level. He's talking about after independence, after independence, after independence. My thing is, certainly, one, the British school system that we inherited has a lot to do with it. I will be the first to agree here that both political parties have so mauled this issue, that it's very hard now to explain it or even talk about it without getting political. I think that's where we have to stop. That's where we have to begin. Stop, think over, and let's start all over and try to analyze this thing rationally and leave all the politics out of it. If we continue this, we will never ever get to the real understanding of what happened. So both political parties are to blame. The one that Mr. Young is a part of and the one that he's trying to blame.
Okay, but Henry says that's impossible to keep party politics.
It certainly is impossible, because the very word politics.
You will agree about party politics.
Yeah, okay. No, he did not say that. Right?
I think that's what he meant.
But I don't think that if anybody has made effort to try and get this question of moving celebrations from the party politics into the cultural area, I think I can claim credit for that. And I think the caller is emotional in that he's got to understand that information has been suppressed by the government that was prior to the UDP.
Information has been suppressed.
Information in that. What's your information?
Information in relation to enlightening people as to their history, etc.
You mean of the 10th of September?
In addition, not necessarily only.
Don't you think that is a characteristic of our entire country, starting from way back even up to now? Our media, our government, our educational system.
But in my presentation, I said that we're coming of age. I said we're just coming of age.
I don't see it getting any better. right now. I think that the degree that the governments of the past have tried to keep information from people has not been very different from government to government.
I think you are unfair.
Yeah, but look, we don't
Because during the time of the PUP, prior to 84, it was bad.
Yeah.
During the time of the UDP, it has improved. And during now the time of the present PUP, it has even improved further. So how can you say that?
What party you belong to?
No, today I think it has improved. I am prepared to say publicly that things have improved in as far as the dissemination of information. I think you're
Another question I have, Henry, is
I think we have a call.
celebrating the 10th of September. Do you think that the thousands of people who celebrate every year really think about the Battle of St. George's Key, or just celebrate for the, as someone used, the phrase someone used once, to get a high?
No, I think that people sincerely feel that they have an affinity to the tent. And what's wrong with that? I mean, what's wrong with the Garifuna having an affinity
Let me
to
suggest a difference between the Garifuna and the tent, right?
Oh, no, I prefer you compare with the other one on the 15th of...
Oh, the Columbus Day?
The Columbus Day.
All right.
Yeah.
Let me compare all three.
Right.
All right. The Garifuna Settlement Day, okay? What that celebrates is the coming of Garifuna people to Belize.
The arrival.
Okay? The arrival
Okay.
of people to Belize.
Yeah.
That is something, I mean, it is clearly
No
understandable.
problem at all with that.
October the 12th,
Yeah.
right, which we call Columbus Day,
Yeah.
actually is celebrating the rape of the continent by the Europeans.
Do you celebrate a rape? You're contradicting
That's what
yourself.
it's doing. I'm telling you that is what it is doing. I don't agree with it, obviously. The very fact that I express it in those terms means that I don't agree with it. And the 10th of September is celebrating what? A battle between two empires which did not benefit, right, the slaves.
But it benefited the country in that we inherited the country. I said
I'll explain that to you.
We inherited the country as a result.
There's a caller. Yes, caller, you're on the air.
Thank you. Hello?
Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah, this is Mr. Robbins again.
Okay.
My question is, if the Battle of St. George's Key is the roots of Belize, when will I see the Prime Minister of Belize walk with the leader of the opposition, side by side?
That's your question.
That's my question.
Okay. When will he see that?
That's yours. That's your, you give an answer to that.
You know when you'll see
I
the
think
Rocky
as
Seven?
time goes by, this will evolve. We've come a long way. Would you agree? We've come a long way.
I don't think we have this evening.
No?
No.
But there were times when you had two different celebrations.
No, in that sense, yes. Yeah, but
There were times when the two political leaders would not be involved in a ceremony that was very dignified on Monday.
But to get back to the meaning of this 10th of September.
Yes.
Because in the same way that I would argue that it is ridiculous, right, for a colonized people, and this thing is going to become, I mean, very, very obvious when, as the so-called 500th anniversary approaches in 1992, right, when the Spanish government especially is trying to promote this concept that it was, it was a good thing, that they came and colonized the Americas, right? That October 12th, Columbus Day, right, is, how can you expect indigenous people, say the Maya people, to celebrate they are being conquered by the Europeans? I mean, it's...
Yeah, but there's no connection.
No.
In the case of the 10th of September, that it is a result of that battle that we are here now, that we can celebrate the 21st. We would not have...
On the 9th of September, slavery existed in Belize, right? 75% of the population were slaves, right? On the 10th of September, 1798, it was still 75% were slaves.
Yeah.
On the 11th of September, still 75% were slaves, Henry.
Yes, but Assad, but you're
40 years later, that was still the case, right?
But you're being ridiculous because
Am I?
Yes, because the thing is that we're missing the main point that we're dealing with in this discussion. It was that as a result of this small battle, right?
That's what?
That we were left in a situation where we could have developed to where we were today.
I mean, look, in 1798, the people here consisted of certain clearly defined groups, right? You had the whites.
The class structure, which
had a
I think
class,
you will
you
agree
had-
with me,
you had
is
a
still
class
present.
Still very much
Okay.
present. Very much present.
So, all right, so maybe that's why.
This is why
why
I'm saying we haven't come such a long
so
way.
maybe that's you wanted, and you, I mean, unless you're related to some superior being, if you think you can eliminate that, you know, I'd like to hear from you, right?
Eliminate what?
The class structure, because that's going to be with us from now
Forever.
until you and I go.
We have
Yes.
to be satisfied with it.
No, no, we can
We have
try.
to constantly
And,
struggle, right?
Right.
For greater justice.
Exactly.
And freedom.
Total agreement on that.
The greater freedom and justice result for the people of Belize, the majorities, meaning
Well,
75%.
if you have a good thing, it will certainly come out being the majority.
Battle,
Yeah.
as a result of that battle, the great majorities of Belizeans, the 75% who were slaves, benefit from that battle. Or did they
Except
continue
they
to be slaves?
benefit immensely because, you see, we have to drift this argument maybe a little further to the two systems at that time, which were both master and slave situation. The British dealing with slaves, as they did mostly along the coast of Africa, the west coast of Africa. Right. The Spaniards dealing with slaves, mostly the mestizos, and also they were involved in the African slave. But they established a bigger empire in the New World. And it was the same slave situation. The Spaniards enslaving the indigenous people in Central America. So I can't understand why you cannot agree with me that when you look at the thing at that time, right, that Belize was better off in that we were able to repel
disagree with that,
the Spanish.
Because
right?
even before the Battle of St. George's Caye, you had slaves running away to Yucatan to get away from the British slave masters. After the Battle of St. George's Caye, slaves were running away to Yucatan. During the Battle of St. George's Caye, some of the slaves who ran away were on the ships that were attacking the baymen. I mean,
but wasn't the reverse much more, where there were slaves running from Yucatan? So why did you end up with
no,
the...
no,
Huh?
No.
I don't think
Yes.
that happened at all.
No. Why you had more slaves in Belize? Because they kept importing more slaves, you know, from...
Yeah, but wasn't the slave system formally established in the Yucatan?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Right. So you had two slave systems.
Yes, Henry.
So your argument is ridiculous.
No, because I'm saying you should celebrate neither. Slave
Why
system.
not? No, we're not celebrating the slave system.
I would
Assad.
agree more with the caller.
We're not celebrating the slave system. Let's not get ridiculous. We're not celebrating the slave. So in other words, maybe we shouldn't celebrate the 21st then, because then we're not really free according to you. We're still struggling.
Of course we should.
All right, so then, but we still have reason to celebrate the little that we have achieved. We still have reason
Why?
to
All
do
right.
that.
If you... All right. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I think the argument is getting bogged down in
Semantics.
semantics. Not really semantics. I mean, they are important things, but
No, they're not unimportant because
question-
they're as a result of what
the
has
question that
evolved.
we must ask ourselves now is the importance of that battle in our history in relation to other things in our history. And what I think is clear is that that battle, compared to the slave revolts and compared to other things in our history, such as the revolt in 1919 and the beginning of the nationalist movement, are less important and significant and less a part of our identity as a nation than that battle ever was.
So then why don't you start a movement to start to promote the revolts that you were talking about? Because again, you're taking the thing out of the context of what we're talking about. That what happened in 1798 is that we ended up defeating another
We
world
meaning
power
who's
at
we?
the time.
Who's we? Who is
the
we?
people at that time, of which I am, unlike my caller friend, I am a result of the assimilation of ethnic groups of the past, like my friend Dylan has admitted, and I think maybe to a certain extent you, right? Even though I think your ancestors came into the picture a little later. But the thing is that we're moving, as you have said earlier, we're drifting away from the basic point that we're making, in that what happened then was that we ended up, when I said we, again, I said our ancestors, right? And I think you all are bringing in cultural problems at the time, which all three of us agree, right? that were abominable. They were terrible. And none of us, because we try to enlighten our children, right? And if you look at the eastern coast of the United States, where they have annual celebrations, the same type of thing takes place. Am I right or wrong? Where you have reenactment of colonial activities of the past, but it's to enlighten the children. Who are the
fathers of the nation?
It is to
the people who fought against the British for getting their independence.
But it's the same
fathers of the
colonial.
foundation of the Baymen.
But they were the slave situation. There's the same situation they learn, and they're trying to inform the children in such a way that they can prevent any of these situations developing in the future.
Okay.
I'm talking about the cultural.
Let's take it from there. Let's take the cultural angle, because I think you will agree, I'm sure you will, because you were chairperson of this celebration, saying you take this 10th of September very seriously, right?
And the 21st. We take both of them seriously.
Well, let's deal with the 10th.
Yes.
Okay. And in a sense, you would have to admit that what a nation chooses to celebrate, right, goes towards the molding of its identity, or the creation of a picture of itself which it wants to develop and promote, okay? And I think, to a certain extent, you were right when you said to Dylan that you think that a lot of people, when they celebrate the 10th, think about the battle and so on. And naturally, because all the leaders, of both parties and of all persuasions, when they talk on that day, talk about the wonderful, brave Baymen, right, who fought against the invader. It's part of the words of our national anthem, and so on, right? So we glorify that day, and we help to create a picture of ourselves as a people, of our identity, based on that day, okay? Now, what I want to point out to you is this, that the essence of that, the creation of that identity, is this whole concept of the whites and the blacks fighting shoulder to shoulder, right? Side by side, right? The Baymen and their slaves fought side by side against this invader to preserve this heritage of ours, right? That is the sort of mythology that creates the identity that we want to form.
Remember, the Greeks did a good job of that,
Right. Now, I don't know if doing that, you see, respects the truth of the history. Because if you're saying, all right, that they fought side by side in the sense that they were comrades in arms and they were like equals fighting together, how do you explain that, 40 years later they are still slaves, right? And that they are enslaved in a way that is as cruel and as barbarous as any form of slavery? Because you know that part of this whole myth creation in Belize is this idea that slavery wasn't so bad in Belize after all, right? That is what we were taught in
I've heard of that. Okay? But slavery in any form is terrible.
Right? It's terrible.
Yeah.
So that now, take a man like Thomas Paslow, okay, who is one of the great heroes. And if you listen to the speeches and you read the accounts, I saw an article in the
Who was married to a black woman, by the way.
Married to a black woman, by the way.
All right. But that's his wife. All right.
Yeah, that's the beauty of it, you see. Henry.
So how many cruel people we have around here who might happen to be black and married? So you're getting into semantics.
That is
you guys, let me tell you something. You see what the problem? No, that's not the key. The problem here is that if you try to put a blueprint or oneness of how everybody should think in Belize, you're wasting your time, because those days have passed.
But that's not
okay. What we need is people who are going to respect Belize.
That's the contrary.
Respect Belize.
There's been a oneness in the way of thinking.
No, but you see, you're going to get into the question of ethnicity, racism. I mean,
of course you have to get into racism.
No, people are people.
And it's part of our reality.
I will not look at you as somebody who has a background that's ethnically different from mine. I can't look at you that way.
Okay.
Else I'm not being fair.
Let me just take this caller. Yes, caller, you're on the air.
Hello.
Yes.
Yes, I've listened fairly carefully tonight. And one statement just a few moments ago amazed me. That was a statement about the Battle of St. George's Key, where there were black and white. Could I ask you a question? What color was the blood that flowed?
Well, as I understand it, no blood flowed.
No, that's ridiculous to say.
Well, I understand.
Several people died.
Deaths.
Several people died, I said.
How did they die?
So what color
by shots?
was
The
the blood that
encounter,
flowed?
yes.
Yeah, they were
that took
killed
place.
by shots? By guns, by swords, by what? By Pocono Boy 6? What were they killed by?
By guns.
Somebody died.
Check the history again.
About Florida.
But
Check the
Sir,
history
I'm
again.
surprised at you to
surprised
make
me.
a statement to the nation that they were
Nobody-
not people who
nobody died in
died.
battle. Nobody died in
Man, for goodness sake, you have not been reading.
Really?
No,
Okay.
I'm sad to hear. I need to discover that.
is it important if
People
if
died.
people died or not?
No, but the gentleman was right in saying, I mean, why are we going
What's the
to...
color of the blood?
Yeah, I mean, the people, they're all color people. And this is the problem with a few people
So-
that I've met, that people still tend to want to look at other people based on their origin and their color. And I think we've got to get away from that.
At that time in 1798, that was a crucial characteristic of the society.
No, but there were black people. There was one hero.
Determined your
No, but there was
status.
one hero of the
You were
battle that
owned
was
by
a black
people.
man. But I said I am amazed that you are saying
You're amazed
that
that I'm
nobody died.
How many people died, Henry?
I can't tell you how
Why
many,
not?
but
Why
the
you can't
evidence
tell me?
shows you
The evidence showed that how many died?
that several
Of what?
people
Of
died
gunshot wounds?
out of involvement out
gunshot wounds?
yes, under the
Okay,
on the St.
check
George's
it out
Day.
tomorrow and then call me again and tell me.
All right.
Tell me if you think
I'm not a
it's
better,
true.
but I
No, don't
you
bet.
know,
Don't bother
I don't
betting,
want
but
to. I
just
want you
check it out.
Yes.
Just check it out and
but
see
but
if in fact.
the caller has hit upon something that is important to me, because as a Belizean, right, of 1990, right, I refuse to look at Belizeans from an ethnic point of view. I think the original
do I.
caller
So do I.
was trying to bring that up for emphasis, and I think as we go about enjoying and celebrating the 21st, which we should do, all of us should do. It came about in a way that a lot of people are still holding back, right? But as time goes on, that's going to erase
Henry, but
itself.
you see what I'm going to, where I'm going
Yeah.
to, is this whole question of the identity that we're forming of ourselves as a people and as a nation, right? Because if we choose out of all the dates in our history, right, not to celebrate a moment when the slaves fought for their own freedom and liberation.
I never said you should. I'm saying
No, but
maybe
we
you
haven't.
should get
We have not.
you should get to work,
Fine.
expound on the history of that revolt.
Can we
and
count on you
start.
to be chairman of that celebration as well?
My days are past. I mean, I have done my time.
Young man, Mr. Young.
No, I'm not. I've got the name Young, but I've done my time.
No, man. No, seriously. You see?
Yeah.
If we choose that date, right, and then we add up all the ingredients of it, for example, making Thomas Paslow a hero, who continued to be a very vicious slave owner.
Yeah.
15 years.
I can name you some
15
vicious
years.
people right here today, but
Yeah, 15 years.
Yeah.
But we don't make them heroes.
No.
15 years after the Battle of St. George's Caye, right? In 1813, several of his slaves escaped to Yucatan. Why? According to the superintendent accounts, because he was treating them so
But how are you going to
he
remove that
was-
from
because
the
of the
fact that
cruel
he was
treatment.
foremost
He was one of the great men in the settlement.
who
He's
defended
we still have a building named after him in Belize.
a lot
He's
of
one
the kings of
heroes
England
in Belize.
were cruel.
So
There's
you're
still
going to
kings in
celebrate them as
England.
I
Okay.
think if we were to examine our history carefully and understand it, we would begin to, as symbolic things, rename things like pastoral building and make them things that are more representative of our history that we want to be proud of.
Henry, for example, let me help you with this one. Do you know the names of the two of the leaders of the slave revolt of 1820?
Oh, I'm
Will
well,
and Sharper.
yes,
Those are
yes.
two names.
I've heard
right?
the names
Will
before.
and
yes.
Sharper.
Uh-huh.
And to me, we should celebrate those two men.
So what's stopping you? I'm
Much
saying,
more
Yes.
than we celebrate
What's stopping you?
any of
But you
the
haven't even
heroes.
started to celebrate them.
Well, we have
Well,
to.
okay.
Because,
So if you
because
feel-
we are up against people like yourself.
No,
Henry,
if you feel that in your
that
heart
the
that's
tent
what
is
you
everything,
want to
right?
do. I never said the tent is everything. In my opening remarks, I mentioned that I didn't say the tent
Would
is
you be
everything.
prepared
I said
then?
it led to the 21st.
Would you be prepared
is-
to reconsider the importance of celebrating the 10th as against that of celebrating, say, the slave revolt of
I
1776?
would not reconsider. I would celebrate in conjunction with. What's wrong? Why do you people
then
have
how
a
many
hang
holiday- how
up
many
on
holidays
people
you gonna
who?
have in a year?
I'm not. In other words, you want to make that a holiday?
I would prefer to have a holiday celebrating a
So,
slave revolt than
The society we live in, you work on that.
than celebrating,
You know,
right?
there's nobody stopping you
A
from
battle
working on
in
that.
which
Right?
slaves were
Yeah.
forced to fight
Yeah.
for their masters, and then they continued to be the slaves
Yeah, but I
of
think the
those masters.
problem or the difference between you and I, or maybe you when you were with the PUP, right, is that my approach is that you should not interfere with people
You know,
who
you know
want
that this,
to.
You know that
No, wait.
my view does not represent the people.
No, I
You
said,
know that.
I stated when you were with, right? That my approach is that you leave people alone. I mean, whoever wants to get out there and enjoy themselves and celebrate something. Why should I? It is up to you to develop another celebration that's going to overshadow. But don't interfere with people. We need freedom more than we ever needed freedom in Belize.
But
allow people to do what they want to do, man. Enlighten them, educate them, and if they want to believe what you are saying, then go ahead and do that.
You really think it's a question of freedom?
No, I never said. I'm saying that if you want to develop a picture of the revolt that took place and enlighten people about it, I'm sure people are going to take on to it and promote it and feel good about it. But it's a question of feeling good, right? Feeling good. And I am trying to say that people feel good about the 10th, so what's your problem? And people are feeling good about the 21st.
Yeah, but maybe
and that's what we should be doing.
Of a deliberate misconception created by our colonial masters and perpetuated by those who inherited power from them.
What then do you do in light of that misconception and that developing?
You educate. What do you do? You educate, and in the end you will get to where you want to get. So we don't have a problem here.
Process of education.
Yes, educate.
And that would like to count on yours, because you have great capacity.
And if you can enlighten me and change my views, I'll be with you. You don't have to worry about me, but you got to first convince me.
Yeah.
Because I am not going to be one of the Belizeans who is going to be a blind follower.
No, of course not.
Okay.
I don't think anybody wants blind followers.
No more. We had them, and we still have some of them.
I don't think either that any government should try to legislate the abolition of the celebrations. I think that is something that has to happen by a people getting more aware of their history. But for that to happen, we need the government and the educational system to be a part of that. And if that is not the case.
While you're on that, I'd just like to touch, before we finish the program, in that we're trying to educate. I know you get a situation where the present government is bringing up reasons as to the importance of the 21st, which I find very ridiculous, which comes out in their mouthpiece, you know, about using numerology and all of that thing in arriving at how we got to the 21st. I don't think my children or my grandchildren are going to buy that as a reasoning. The explanation, we need to get a better explanation, because you need to convince people. And you can't convince
Henry, in
people.
a sense, why do you need any explanation at all?
As to how the time was chosen, because it has been and it will be a conflict between the closeness with the tent. So it will be.
So that is related to the whole question of the tent then?
No, it's not related, but it has caused an aggravation. I mean, why didn't they take, say, a different month, or maybe the same day of the 10th? We'd have resolved a whole lot of animosity.
I would agree with Henry on that in the sense that it is very expensive to have two major celebrations like this one after the other. I would have supported the 10th of September becoming Independence
Wouldn't have
Day,
harmed anybody.
I think that the reason that wasn't done was that the part at the time was afraid of reaction of people.
So you don't believe in the explanation that they gave in the paper about numbers and...
No, I think that's ridiculous. I think that's ridiculous. But the fact is that the 21st of September, our Independence Day, should have a million times more significant.
I have no problem with that. Time is the only element that's going to bring that about. Well, when me and you and Assad pass on to the great...
But as reward or a punishment.
Yes, as of now, only time we've got to...
long-term process.
Yes. Anybody who try to rush it is going to get hurt. You know. So let's just leave people alone.
Henry, it's not a question of not leaving
themselves.
people alone.
I think it's a matter of talking about...
Well, when I say leave, I don't mean that you shouldn't try and enlighten them, you know, and this type of thing.
This program is a
them
kind of education in itself for us. And
but I'm not going to lose nitrous over that. I see more important things lurking on the horizon that we need to address, right?
But, well, I don't know, because you see, as I said, right, what you choose to celebrate and how you choose to celebrate it and what you choose to highlight goes towards the formation of your identity and of the way you see things, right? And in a sense, you see, what I see the embracing of that mythology about the Battle of St. George's Key, the mythology in the sense of, you know, masters and slaves.
Yeah, not the battle being a myth.
No,
okay,
no,
all right.
that aspect of
because you sound like somebody I used to have to listen to years back.
Right? That aspect, right, of masters and slaves, right, fighting together, okay?
Which you'll agree has happened in the whole of history prior to the change of the century.
Why did it happen? Why did the slaves fight for their masters? Because they had to.
No, you don't have to, man.
They had to fight for their masters.
No, because the pittance that was given to you was because at that time you felt that that was the best you could have had.
They weren't given any pittance. What pittance were they given? They were
slaves. Little privileges and, you know,
they were slaves,
and being a leader, a black man, you could lead the crowd. I said, let's be.
They were slaves and they continue to be slaves,
so
right?
It's happening in maybe the whole of the Middle East now is the same
What I
situation,
see happening, right, is that the sort of relations, that were that existed then between the masters and the slaves, right, continued after the Battle of St. George's Key, but also continued after emancipation. In other words, when emancipation came, right, in 1838, a system of labor and a system of division between the former masters and the former slaves continued, right?
Correct. Yes.
And it continues to this day in another form. Yes. And what I'm saying is mythologizing that aspect of shoulder-to-shoulder working together is very much like papering over the very class differences that exist in our society.
Well, I think that's
what I want to argue. But there's a caller on the line. Yes, caller. Yes, you're on the air.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
I have listened to your program very carefully tonight. I would like to make my final call a suggestion.
Yes, please do.
Not a question, a suggestion. Could we not all think of making 1991, the 10th of September, and the 21st of September, a truly united affair, when everybody marches together, whether they be politically motivated or not? That is my suggestion.
Okay, fine. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I think I want to say something here.
No, but I think
you might disagree with me on
no,
this.
in answering what the callers, the point that he made is that it is happening.
Yeah, it's happening.
But you can't, it's not something you could legislate, okay?
Right.
Time is the element that's going to bring about what he would like to see. And I think it's going to come about.
Yeah, something that both of you seem to disagree with me with is my observation of the Battle of St. George's Key having less and less significance in people's minds, especially young people. And I get this from people I've spoken to over the past few days. And that people are more and more celebrating because there are celebrations to celebrate. And
so is something wrong with that?
I think that yes and no. One.
But you're having a conceptual problem, Dylan.
No, I'm not.
Yes, man.
I'm not.
Because you would not, you'd want them to celebrate because so and so should be. You got to leave, it's my point, or you got to leave people alone, man. Right? Educate them, and in time you will be comfortable with the fact that maybe they are celebrating because of improved knowledge. Okay? But as it is, you have much more important thing to conceptualize. And
I think that's a very important
so,
thing.
all right, when people,
the identity of a nation and the history of
when
nation,
Tiger came here and people were celebrating, they were celebrating. They enjoyed themselves. They left, they went home, they felt good. Why do you want to stop people from feeling good?
I don't want to stop people from feeling good.
Yes, that's the point you're making. But you're saying that it worries you that maybe that it's not, that in my opinion, the Battle of St. George's Key was something great, and people are celebrating, but you feel that they're just celebrating because it was fun.
No, what worries me is that some
no problem
people,
with that.
That some people still
believe
promoting.
That, but there's nothing wrong with that.
This is one of the most significant parts
there's
of
nothing
history.
wrong with that.
I think there's something very wrong.
You're going back to the days where you're going to try and stop a program. I'd be scared. I'd be scared to have you running the show.
I am not saying that we should abolish.
Yeah, you would want to, but you'd cut this program.
I think there's something wrong.
Why are you saying?
Because we are discussing, and we are allowing people to decide whether this thing is right or wrong.
No, this is a discussion.
Yes, so.
Milan isn't suggesting that you shouldn't do that.
No, but he's worried, right? The fact that he's showing that he's worried, right?
I'm concerned of what it means for our country's national cultural identity.
It'll do nothing
and
to
how
the
that
natural.
relates to our development.
It will do
as
absolutely
part of
nothing
the
to
whole
that.
problem we have in our country.
The development will come from economic development.
Of the history of the issue.
Right?
Yeah, but
and you might be uncomfortable.
Whose benefit?
For all the people.
Well, that isn't the way it's
Right?
been happening.
Why?
That's not
Well,
the
that's
way
another topic we could take on where we'll be
That's a
from.
critical part of this whole thing.
Why?
Because
So you need to strengthen your labor
the
movement
first-
if you're not
exactly,
happy with,
exactly.
with
The first
the
caller.
part of the pie that the laborer is getting.
The first caller
So
asked a question that
has
you
not.
still cannot answer, right?
What is that?
That why not celebrate a slave revolt as a major national
But
day
I answered
rather
that.
than,
I'm saying that
rather than, right?
Yeah.
A situation where slaves were forced to fight for their masters and continue to be slaves.
Yeah, but it was the end result of that battle.
No, in 1825, in 1825, that's what, 27 years after this battle, right? And during that time, a lot of slaves, a lot had escaped, right, to the neighboring countries. And in that era, the superintendent, I believe it was called Cod at that time, reported that the slaves were discussing among themselves whether they should continue to escape or whether they should stage a major revolt and take over the settlement, right? I wish they had done that. And today we'll be celebrating the 165th anniversary of the taking
of the revolt
settlement by the slaves.
Yeah, but you
and
don't
creating an independent
But you're not
country
sure they would have won.
by the slaves. Let's hope they would have won. Let's hope they
So
would have won.
here
But
we
the
go
least
again,
can
you're
do is
removing-
to celebrate their efforts.
Yes, all right.
To
But
end that
Hassan,
terrible stigma
I
of
think-
slavery.
yeah.
Rather than celebrating a battle where they were used and continued to be abused for 40 years after.
No, but the end result is that we are here and we were able
That has nothing to do with
have independence.
That has nothing
Okay?
to do with
How
having
are you going to say
no,
that?
man, no, man.
Huh?
The
How
one
are you
does not
gonna
lead
say
to
that?
the other in any way.
No.
As Dylan said, right, every Caribbean country, island, can celebrate some battle, the last battle between any two colonial powers, French and English or Spanish and English, and why don't they? Because it's a ridiculous thing to do.
Let me pose a strong question to you. It's not as a result of your grandfather getting with your grandmother that you are here, although you might dislike him. Huh? Answer me.
No, anyhow, we have to break off now because I'm being signaled by the people here that it's already 9 o'clock. But I want to thank you very much, right, for coming on the show.
It's a pleasure.
And for being so game and a lively part of this, and also, of course, Dylan. And to thank our viewers and our listeners for listening to this program, Spare and Target. And 2 weeks from now, we'll be on again with another, hopefully, controversial topic. And we want to thank you all for listening and invite you to continue listening to Spare and Target. Thank you very much and good night.